Okay, so I'm riding along here on my sewing machine. I hear a noise. Took 2 stitches and it didn't want to stop. I figured it was the bobbin, but I knew I just filled that. And my material doesn't want to go. It was kind of like jammed. So what's going to start happening if I keep sewing is a bird's nest. So if that happens, you don't try to keep pushing it through. You're going to want to lift your presser foot, remove your needle. See, and when you're with your pressure foot up, you should be able to loosen your material here, and it doesn't want to. If you have a top load bobbin, you're going to take and cut your thread here. This will help. One, yep, see I got 2 things going on there. Something jammed up in there. So we take that out. See how that just freed it up real quick. Sometimes you're trying to lift under here and you know, lifting under here, trying to pick this up. You're trying to pick this up and stick your scissors or even a tiny scissors. Sometimes that bird's nest gets so tight you could actually destroy your fabric. So if you go in the bobbin case and cut those threads in there, it comes right out. It's a really good idea. So now, what causes this problem? Well, it could be about bad wound bobbin, but I highly doubt that's going to happen. Now, I know before I started this project, I cleaned my machine. Things that you're not going to, if you don't get your machine from a retailer, let's say you go to Walmart or Sears and you buy your machine, they don't tell you, and it does say in some of the books, clean this every 8 hours, take it apart and clean. It gets dusty in there and it can mess you up. Now, the biggest problem, or the biggest cause of a lot of problems, is a needle. Now, I haven't put a new needle on here in a while, so I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I'm just using the 8012s. It's a pretty common standard thing. Change your needle and then totally rethread your machine. And you should go just fine. And then before you start on your quilt again, you need to test. Do a test strip of fabric. So we also need to rethread. Take your spool of thread off, rethread everything. No. I'm going to rethread, get that back on there. Like all the way from the beginning. Just don't go halfway, go all the way. Biggest problem, dull needles. And it sounds silly, but dull needles cause havoc. Now I have to have my presser foot down to thread my needle. I have this cool little gadget. The old machines never had these. I call this the woohoo. Woohoo! It's done. It's the woohoo. Alright, bobbin. Most bobbins, when you put them in, P for perfect. Perfection is a cruel mistress. It really is. Put this back on. Put our cover back on. Take a scrap out of my scrap bin here. We'll give her, oh, I guess we need a foot on there, don't we? And we'll give her a go. Come on. And do like you normally would do. Double your fabric. This is a salvage from a piece. This is just another salvage piece. Put it in there. Give it a nice good test. No funny noises. I do the full length just to make sure. because sometimes our machines are just, they're finicky. And because I don't like, okay, this is why I use a thread catcher, because if you go like this and you trim your threads, when you start off at this end, now when I'm quilting I have to go through and trim this. And then I have strings, and those have to go into the thread bin. So that's why I like to use a thread catcher. That's one of the reasons. Okay. And it is okay for for you beginners. It's okay to sew off of material. It's not going to hurt your machine. So now I double check this. This is okay. Actually didn't. Let's see if I can focus here better. I didn't get too bad of a knot. Let's see which way we need to go here. A little more. Nope, too far. Sorry. There's just an itty bitty knot there because I heard the cue. I'm going to trim that little bitty guy off of there in the extra thread. Okay, so now I ended up here, but I'm going to backtrack. See if we can refocus a little bit. There we go. So my stitching ended here. I want to go back up here and do a back tack. So we're actually going to have to get rid of this thread catcher guy. Needle up. Needle up. And get rid of that. Put your thread to the back or to the side where you can keep an eye on it. Some people don't realize that because if it goes underneath it can cause a big knot. So back tack a few stitches, 3 stitches, and then continue on sewing. And this is the last row of our block. Okay. Okay, that's nested in there. Yeah, I think it's important to share little tips like that because sometimes, what happened? I wrecked my machine. I remember the first time it happened to me, I was nuts and I wrecked my fabric. It took me a long time to learn that little trick. Just something I figured out on my own as I was trying to release the bird's nest. So again, after every 8 hours, clean out your bobbin holder. Change your needles. Rule of thumb is 1 needle per quilt, but if you're doing little things, you don't always realize how much you've done. Like, technically, we have just sewn, oh, where's my thread catcher? I got a bunch of them here. Technically, we have just sewn a mini quilt. It's not just a block, it's actually a mini quilt. Our whole entire mini quilt. Very pretty. Alright, I'll see you over at the cutting table. First, remember, set your seams, press it open.